Now, since we know that Donald Trump will be president again on January 20th, we should talk about some changes that we're going to see in the country if he follows through on the things that he's been saying. And since he's talked about a great number of things while on the campaign trail, I'm just going to limit it to two things today, and that is tariffs and deportations. First, regarding tariffs, you have outlets like Axios noting that Trump has floated a 10% or 20% tariff on all imported goods and a 60% tariff on Chinese imports if he reclaims the White House. And while Donald Trump has held up tariffs as one of the greatest things ever invented, saying that it's going to solve a lot of the problems that people have, especially regarding costs, reportedly in a recent Wall Street Journal survey of 39 economists, not one expert polled approved of Trump's plan to put tariffs on all imported goods. And this is, there also seems to be kind of a general misunderstanding among some regarding what tariffs do. Right, as Axios notes, Trump is right that tariffs can raise revenue for the governments imposing them, but saying he's wrong when he claims they only punish manufacturers abroad. They can also hurt US companies and consumers. Right, and that because let's say you're importing something from China. China is not paying the tariff. The American is paying the tariff, with that extra added cost affecting Americans in one of several ways. One, the person importing can raise the price of the product that they're selling, which is then costing the consumer more money, and possibly the person that's selling the product gets fewer sales. They could also keep their price the same but make less profit, or, and this appears to be Trump's thinking, they then work with an American manufacturer, or depending on what the tariffs are for specific countries, a different country than China. And this is the Biden administration, as reports note, kept and even expanded some of Trump's tariffs, and adding President Biden also imposed his own tariffs, for example, on Chinese electric vehicles and batteries. And those specific tariffs have been more widely seen as a way to try to limit the damage that China's trying to do to American markets. Right? And the way that those tariffs are often explained is as a defensive move, a way to combat China from driving out US competitors and dominating entire industries by setting below market prices. Right? Think of it kind of like trying to fight off a Walmart that's going to put all the other shops around it out of business, though I guess on a global scale and as far as the mom and pop shop. You're talking about US industries, and it's also not that simple, right? Then you have to worry about retaliatory tariffs. And actually with all this, as far as the impact, there was a 2019 study that estimated that by the end of 2018, import tariffs were costing US consumers and the firms that import foreign goods an additional $3 billion per month in added tax costs. With Axios also noting that the study found that tariffs were allowing US producers to increase their prices because they faced less foreign competition. Though again, we're gonna have to wait and see what specific things Donald Trump does after he takes over the presidency. And that also is true regarding deportations. Because according to Axios, a source familiar with Trump's plan had said that if elected, Trump wants to mobilize ICE agents along with the FBI, DEA, federal prosecutors, the National Guard, and even state and local law enforcement officers to carry out deportations of undocumented immigrants. There would also be fast-track deportations, which is something that's been limited to recent border crossers, but reportedly it would be expanded to apply to anyone who illegally crossed the border and couldn't prove they'd been living in the US for more than 2 years. It also being reported that Trump would curtail the usual multi-step deportation process here by using an obscure section of the 1798 Alien and Seditions Act to immediately round up and deport migrants with criminal histories. And Axios saying connected to that, the military would build massive sites near the border to hold people awaiting deportation. All of this, if implemented, of course, would look very different state by state. In Texas, for example, Donald Trump would likely have a lot of support at the state level, with the same, at least to some degree, possibly said for Florida and Georgia. And I also mentioned those three specifically is because reportedly in just those three states, there are 2.9 million undocumented immigrants. But then it's very likely you'd see a drastically different situation in a state like California. Right? Axios noting likely pushback in Democratic-led states with well-organized Latino advocacy groups and sanctuary cities. And then all of this, it could have economic implications, with among other things it being generally understood that illegal immigrants actually, help play a role in easing inflation and helping the economy avoid a recession after the pandemic. People also pointing to how deportation can actually hurt local economies. Axios, for example, noting in 2011, for example, unpicked crops rotted in Alabama after the state passed a harsh anti-immigrant bill. But however this would look or play out, it's massive news because it's believed there are around 10.5 million undocumented immigrants in the country. But for now, regarding these two things and a number of things we're going to talk in the days and weeks to come, we're going to have to wait to see what actually happens. Or what was said on the campaign trail on that road to the White House, and then what does it actually look like when the administration is in power. The broad strokes, the core, the nooks and cranny, all of it. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this clip from the full Philip DeFranco show. And also, a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring our Clips channel. Turn your passion into profit over at squarespace.com/Phil or use the QR code. Because whether you're launching a business or a lucrative side hustle, your website is your digital business card. It's the only space where you control the story, no algorithms or distractions. And with Squarespace, it's so easy because they got a ton of stunning professional templates with drag and drop editing that makes site design incredibly simple, no coding required. So get started for free at squarespace.com/Phil or scan the QR code on screen and use code Phil for 10% off when ready to launch. Squarespace.com/Phil.